Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me. I am still Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It is still in the description below. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please reach out to me directly. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today we are discussing a lovely 2018 model year limited edition of 50 pieces in white gold at 42 millimeters in diameter. This is the Moser Cie Endeavour Perpetual Calendar Cosmic Green with a cosmic green fume smoked fade gradient dial. So in white gold, it is 42 millimeters in diameter by 12.3 millimeters thick. From lug tip to lug tip, 48.1 millimeters with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. The timepiece features a substantial heft in the hand and on the wrist, but it also features outstanding ergonomics. Look carefully at the case back, and you can see both case back and case back sapphire are cambered. So on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, while it's a large timepiece certainly, it's not oversized. I'd call it full-sized. You can see even from over the top, which exaggerates the width of the watch across the wrist, the lugs are not projecting beyond the edges of my wrist. And in profile, you can see the combination of the concave bezel and the relatively thin profile of 12.3 millimeters means this will slip underneath the cuff. It is a dress watch, but it's a sporty dress watch, so you can wear it with all kinds of sleeves, not all of them long. Now looking down the barrel, this is the most definitive angle regarding whether a watch fits. You can see those lugs are nowhere near the edges of my wrist. I recommend this watch for a wrist as small as 15 centimeters in circumference. Again, mine is 16. We have Moser's distinctive kudu leather strap, and you can see it is very minimally treated with a lot of the natural features of the kudu hide. It's a light brown with a little bit of a mottled appearance. Some of the original scars and pores and topographical features of the natural material still present to give it a rustic, almost naturalistic look, something that has only a few buffers between nature and your wrist. And you can see that in profile it has a sheer cut edge showing the layers of leather. There's a monotone stitch, but it's not a rustic, unfinished thing. It is still beautifully well executed underneath, where a more traditional, highly tanned, cultivated, and treated calfskin is applied for absolute refinement. And we have a rare feature on a Moser watch, which is a full deployant clasp. Most of them, even complications, come on pin buckles. And here you can see a combination of satin and polish with the Moser logo. It is friction fit, single fold, offering the advantage of every full clasp, which is that it helps to prevent accidentally dropping the watch when you are donning it or removing it. The case, as I've always said with the Endeavours, incredibly fluid, almost like molten metal that's been drawn out under tension and then flash frozen. It has such a curvaceous quality to its complex, multifaceted, compound curved profiles. And Moser first machines and then hand finishes its cases. You have to do both if you want to get these internal polished contours. Most companies will just stamp or machine and stop there. Moser is able to create these incredible concave mirrored hollows of vertical satination and profile. We have this concave bezel all the way around that expands at 12 and 6 and then thins out at the mid case. And of course the case back of the watch, which is beautifully contoured, not just the sapphire itself, but you can see the case back has that same sort of flowing profile to wrap around the wrist with relatively short and stubby lugs. We have a dial here. It is cosmic green. There's a little fingerprint here on the dial. Don't worry about that. That's all it is. It's a smudge. Minimalist. Not quite as minimal as Moser's concept dials, which feature no distinguishing marks whatsoever. This is more like their purity dial. So we have a lacquer that is bright metallic green at the center, fading almost black at the edge. We have faceted leaf style hands for hours and minutes, and then we have alpha hands for the power reserve and small seconds, and a stub index that indicates the month. We have doubled up indices at 12 and 6, and then an oversized window for the date. Now this is an Andreas Streller Perpetual calendar system. Streller is famous as a watchmaker's watchmaker, basically the go-to man for complications, and his hallmark is complexity that is cloaked. So a very complex mechanism that is simple to use and understand. So here I have a bidirectional quick set. I can turn this large date in both directions. And you can see how such a large date is achieved as we have two superimposed discs. So if the date numerals were actually as big as they are and there were just one disc, the watch would be twice its size. So we get these superimposed discs to give us that giant profile. Huge 3, huge 1. Look at the index at second. You see how it jumps back and forth? 12 hours, 12 months. That's how the calendar indicates. And again, you have the ability to turn it in both directions, and there is no date change danger zone at night when you could accidentally damage a conventional perpetual by using a quickset. You cannot damage this one. There's a little pusher adjuster on the flank, and then on the reverse of the case, there is a leap year indicator because Streller correctly reasoned that you don't need to see it constantly. We have a power reserve indicator on the dial side. The watch includes a 7-day power reserve. That's its chronometric reserve, during which it will keep the best time, though its absolute reserve, the time at which it drops dead and stops, is closer to 9. Now there's a double pull system for the crown, so if you're trying to synchronize the seconds, a lot of people tell me they have trouble synchronizing the seconds on their Moser, but the first thing you do is you pull once. Okay, now you pull a second time. So you pull once, you get out the date change position, and then from the date change position, let's say you want to synchronize to the second against a reference time and stop the seconds hand up at 60, then from the date change position, you pull a second time. Now it stops the seconds hand without resistance. The idea is to offer a mandatory break in between the crown positions so you don't blow past the date change and actually set the time by accident. It's a clever system, but one that confuses a lot of people if they don't know it's there. Now on the reverse side, you can see that Moser caliber HMC 800 is actually quite large, filling this substantial case back. We have the twin mainspring barrels that produce both a very long power reserve and a very, very flat torque curve. It's only at the very beginning of the power reserve and the very end that you don't get a flat plateau of torque. So you achieve a lot of the advantages of a constant force system without the complexity and expense. Now you can see for shock resistance we have a full balance bridge. For shock resistance as well as precise setting, we also have a free sprung balance. So the watch is adjusted in 6 positions with the free sprung balance and the full balance bridge. It's both very precisely adjusted and able to hold that adjustment in the face of shock and concussion on the wrist. It beats away at a stately pocket watch like 18,000 vibrations per hour, and you can see it uses an overcoil hairspring with a better centering of its mass than a flat hairspring. It breathes concentrically in every conceivable position, allowing the watch to keep excellent time no matter what position on your wrist or on your dresser at night. We also have a solid gold 14-karat escapement. You can just barely see it on its own bridge below the balance that allows the system to operate with less lubricants, at lower friction and less maintenance requirements. The hairspring, balance, and the escapement are all made in-house by Moser. It's one of the few companies in Switzerland that can make not just the big parts of the movement like wheels and pivots, bridges, and plates, but also the truly challenging parts through its precision engineering subsidiary. We also have a platform escapement, really a platform assortment. The whole thing, balance, hairspring, bridge, and escapement, lifts out as one part so it can be replaced with a pre-lubricated, pre-adjusted module when the watch goes in for service at your regional Moser service center. And it does have regional service centers in Europe, in Asia, and in North America. So this is going to be able to get back to you even quicker. Now, 30 meters water resistant, so it's not an aquatic sports watch, but it is a very sporty dress watch, as I mentioned. On the reverse side, we have a couple of nostalgic elements, including 2 bridges that are split for easier servicing, but designed to read as a pocket watch style 3/4 bridge from the 19th century and early 20th century iteration of H. Moser Cie. We have golden chaton cups fixing the pivot jewels of the barrel arbors, but then also the train, and that is a nod to the way jewels would have been pressed into old pocket watches. Precision golden cups made, jewels pressed into those, and then those seated in the bridges and plates and fixed in place using polished screws in this case, so a nod to antiquity. We've got this lovely swan's neck style pocket watch inspired click spring, and then we have these double crested Côte de Genève, as well as a nice neat mechanical manual hybrid bevel with black polished screw heads. A truly good looking movement with lots to recommend it. If you love this watch, reach out to me. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.